Hi, y'all. Welcome to Empowermente. I'm so happy that you're here. I have really embraced a season full of guests. So I really hope that you've been loving it and that you've been connecting with these amazing people. Today is no exception. I have an amazing guest, particularly for those of you that want to improve your communication skills and want to get into public speaking. And I want to go over some housekeeping and updates for you. So, one, this past week, I did an event with State 48. It was all about mastering marketing. You can learn more about the event on my Instagram post. I did a reel about it, and I'm going to post about it on LinkedIn as well. But something that I really wanted to highlight for you as my listener is that I still get imposter phenomenon when I do these type of events. It's not as prominent as it was before, but when you're doing something new, it's bound to happen, and it's best to have the tools to help you with it. So I was feeling a little bit of an imposter phenomenon because it was my first time talking about marketing. Like, I have never made that my public speaking topic. So I was like, I'm a little bit intimidated. Plus, the people in the panel were people who had a lot of experience in big marketing teams and corporate. And of course, that's not my experience. So it just felt like, oh, I haven't been doing this long enough. I don't know if this is relevant. I don't know. I'm scared, right? I want to share with you a framework that helped me through this. And it's called the success track record method. And what it says is when you're having self doubt, you need to really reflect and write down and simmer on your past accomplishments that make it relevant for you to do well in whatever you're doing. So, for me in particular, I was reflecting that I've actually been creating a personal brand for the past 5 years. I've been doing marketing for a lot more than that, as marketing myself to jobs and online. And the brand that I have created has allowed me to have opportunities like be invited to do a live with the Today Show and meet people like Jessica Alba and sell out my first group coaching program because of my very strong, authentic personal brand. People with hundreds of thousands of followers more than me sometimes don't even get these kind of opportunities. So I'm incredibly grateful, and just reviewing and simmering in my own accomplishments helped me process how I was feeling in terms of the imposter phenomenon. And the lesson here is that if you're feeling imposter syndrome or you're feeling self doubt, just know that we all have our unique sauce. No, I didn't have 20 years of corporate experience like the people in the panel did, but I did reflect a really unique target audience, which was entrepreneurs. I've been creating my own personal brand for several years. It's what I help people do inside my program, which I help them use their gifts, stories, and experiences to create powerful personal brands or mission driven businesses. And it's what I get paid to do. It's what I teach now. And so I am qualified enough to be on this stage, right? Like, I've created a brand where people recognize me at conferences. So it's just like when you're feeling the self-doubt, do this method, the success track record method, so that you can go back and really feel good in who you are and your accomplishments, and just know that every single person has something unique to offer, and just because yours is different doesn't mean it's wrong. So that's a little bit of my event. And then I also wanted to share with you that I have another event coming up September 11th with Gigi, the first gen mentor. And it's as part of her book tour stop. I'm going to be leading the conversation and, allowing the audience to ask questions all about personal finance and her book and everything in between. So if this is something that you're interested in, please make sure that you register in Gigi's profile, Gigi, the first gen mentor. And finally, if you are interested in public speaking, I released my evergreen workshop, Booked and Paid, the guide to book your first paid speaking engagement. Oh my God, y'all, I put so much intentionality and I've gotten so much good feedback on it. If you are someone who's interested in getting paid to do public speaking, to share your story, to share your knowledge and your experiences, please make sure that you check it out. Again, I've gotten really, really great feedback. Actually, let me read some of it for you just so you know that I am not making this up. Um, Let me read it. It says, I'm learning new skills and insights from Gina. Y'all, her workshop is on point. Definitely purchase it. She's dropping gems. And then it says, my other amiga got your workshop too. I can't wait to exchange notes with her about it. I'm enjoying how structured and digestible it is. Very ADHD friendly for me, Gina. Amazing. So that's some of the feedback that I got from Jerry. Shout out to Jerry. I appreciate Women Compass Collective for purchasing it and giving me that feedback. So thank you. If you're interested in purchasing, the link is in my show notes. So without further ado, let me introduce you to today's guest. Our guest today is Yvonne Armenta. She's a keynote speaker, public speaking strategist, and consultant, and founder of Latina Presente, a space dedicated to redefining how we practice public speaking. Her journey began in high school when she delivered her first keynote to an audience of 1,500 people. That experience led her to tour the US speaking at education conferences about project based learning. With over a decade of experience, Yvonne has built a career in tech, leading communications, community, and social impact work at companies like Healthline, MNTN, and Uber. Throughout it all, public speaking remained at the core of her work. Today, she helps individuals and teams refine their voices, build confidence, and speak with authenticity. A su manera. Yvonne's approach is rooted in storytelling, drawing from her experience as a first gen Latina and introvert. She believes that public speaking is for everyone and that all we need to do to love and build our skill set is root our practice in our unique lived experiences. Through her workshops, hands on coaching, and public speaking con cultura practice cards, she is transforming how we practice and grow public speaking skills. Yes, so excited to have Yvonne. I hope that you love this conversation. I actually met her at a conference called Latinas last week. I can show you some videos here. And she is absolutely amazing. And I cannot wait for you to hear from her work. And I'm so excited to collaborate her also as a public speaker and hope you get a lot of value. See you in the episode. Welcome to Empowermente, the headquarters of personal empowerment. Hello, Yvonne. It's so good to have you on the podcast. I'm so happy that you accepted, and I'm so excited to dive deep today, all about public speaking. It's amazing to see you and your growth and to see a Latina killing it in an industry that I feel is gate kept or not many people know about what you can do in public speaking. And so I'm so excited to chat with you today. We've been connected for a few years, right? Like on Instagram. It's been several years.
I think so. I mean, I think ever since 2020, the years have kind of just meshed into one for me, and I'm like, has it been 5 years? Has it been 10 years?
Yeah. And I think we also started our entrepreneurship full-time journey around the same time. So before we go into your upbringing, I know I shared a little bit about what you're doing now on your introduction, but I am just very curious to know what made you want to go into entrepreneurship, because as an entrepreneur, I know it's hard and I know it's not like a traditional path. So what made you want to do it?
It's very similar to how I started my public speaking journey, I would say. I think I've always been really creative and I would say innovative in the spaces that I was in my career in tech, for example. I was always trying to find new ways to do something, and I can't do one thing for too long. And so I think entrepreneurship kind of lends itself to that. And it sort of happened by accident where I started sharing public speaking tips. I was asked, hey, do you want to do workshops here and there? And eventually it became something that I was like, this could be my full time job. When I started public speaking and my very first paid speaking engagement, I said to myself, oh, people get paid for this. This quite literally could be someone's, like, you could do 2 speaking engagements a month and be fine. Right. But because I was set in my 9 to 5 career, I still continued to pursue it. And then eventually I had enough inquiries to where I was like, I feel like I want to try this out. I want to see if I can do this full time. I love it so much. And I kind of just went for it. It's been about a year and a half now, full time, of doing entrepreneurship.
I love that. Yes. I started in July 2023. So it's been almost 2 years. Not quite. We're almost there. But I don't count the first 6 months in my head because I didn't really do anything proactive for those months for some family reasons. I just took everything that came in. So it's amazing to see how much you've done in a year and a half. I'm curious to start at the beginning. Let's talk about how you even thought about using your voice. Like, what was the moment that you said, wait, I actually have something powerful to say? Did that happen in your childhood? Did that happen like later in life, in high school?
I don't know that I've ever said to myself, "Wow, I have something powerful to share." I think I'm an introvert, and so I'm naturally in my thoughts. And when I started my public speaking journey was in high school, right? I was given an opportunity, and I always say this, that we become really great public speakers not only because we have something to say, but because we're granted an opportunity and we're given the space to practice our craft.
Wow.
And the more opportunities we have means the more practice we have, which means the better we'll get at what we do. And I think it was that kind of process. It was never a process of, oh, I have something valuable to share. It was, I was given the space to really
Mm.
practice and reflect on my craft. And from that came deep conversations, deep thinking. And I think that's when I said, oh, I have something different to share. I have a different perspective
Mm.
to share. And again, I feel like my public speaking journey sort of happened by accident. And I say that because it was, hey, Yvonne, do you want to speak at this conference? I was like, yeah, sure. Didn't really know what it was, what I was doing. But in the process of crafting my speech and thinking about what I really wanted to say, that's where I was like, oh, I really like the process of. It allows
Mm.
me to be me. It allows me to think deeply. And in this moment, once I'm on stage, it kind of doesn't matter what anybody else is saying because I've already been granted the mic. I don't
Mm.
need to fight for it. I don't need to speak up for
Wow.
it. The mic is already mine. Attention, the spotlight is already on me for this moment. And I've prepared for this specific spotlight. It isn't like I just got thrown into it. And I think that's what I realized is that public speaking afforded me that space to think deeply, reflect, and not fight for space.
Yeah, and it's a form of expansion for yourself and your own development. Were you ever scared? Like, I think public speaking is rated as like the number one fear that human beings have for some reason. It's not anything else. It's public speaking.
Before death, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Before death
because
and before spiders.
yeah, and for me, I'm thinking about even 2023, I had an engagement for a high school. It was like a high school summit. And the day before, I was thinking and thinking and thinking, and I couldn't sleep. And I was just so nervous. And I think I almost got a fever about like just how nervous I was. And it has taken a lot of engagements for me to be like, I'm nervous, but this is not impacting my health. So I'm curious to know if you have how you progressed on that, if you still get nervous. How scared were you the first few times that you did it?
I was so scared. I mean, my very first official paid public speaking engagement, it was in Napa. They gave me my own hotel room. There was a get together the day before. You know, it was one of those conferences where you have a party the night before, kind of like a mingling thing, and then the conference happens the next day. I was speaking the next day. I went to the gathering. I couldn't even eat. You know, so when you talk about, oh, it affects your health, I could not even eat. I didn't want to drink water. I felt like I couldn't enjoy myself because I was so caught up in I'm about to speak to all of these people tomorrow, you know? And so I always say this to people, the nerves have never stopped for me. There's still a little bit of that. I kind of don't want to eat right now. Probably shouldn't be drinking coffee right now. It never really goes away, but I've learned to live with it. not I wouldn't say deal with it, but I've learned to live with that little bit of fear and assessing where it actually comes from. Is it from me not knowing what I'm talking about, which is not the case, right? And so then
Mhm.
I can kind of remove that from my worries. Is it because I know that this group really needs a mind shift and that I am challenging a lot of their current beliefs? That is a little scary. And that I have to sit with a little bit longer and reflect on a little bit longer. And sometimes, to be honest, not even think about too much. I try not to think about what I'm about to do at all. I watch reality TV. I
Perfect.
listen to something that has nothing to do with what I'm about to engage in, something that doesn't engage my mind, because I want to be fully present for that moment. And I can't be fully present if I've now consumed my mind with all the other thoughts of what if, you know?
Wow, that is something. And like, te iba a preguntar algo and I went completely blank. Um, your vision of what public speaking is had to be greater than that fear that you had, especially as an introvert. I'm curious to know, what is that public speaking vision from the start? What was it from when you were in high school that you saw, hey, this is not only a way to expand myself, but I mean, it had to be something bigger than that for you to continue to do it and now do it full time. And, a lot of our listeners have never done public speaking or gotten paid for it. So please illuminate us in that aspect. Why is public speaking so important or such a magic to you?
It was a lot. It was a combination of things, right? The very reason why I said yes to an opportunity was because I am a first gen Latina. I believed that my success meant that that was my family's success. And so, this opportunity, any opportunity to get my foot into any door because I didn't have access, was an opportunity that I couldn't say no to. And
Mm,
so, as scared as I was, I didn't wanna say no to this opportunity because it felt like I needed to say yes, right? So I always say I didn't do it because I wanted to, right?
mm,
Eventually, it turned into something after I was done being on stage and delivered the very first speaking engagement. One, I was gonna do it for free. I had said yes, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll do it." They sent me the contract, and I saw the number, and I was like, "Oh, what?" Now there's really no way that I can say no to this, right? Like, now I have to do it because the at the time, and even till this day, that amount of money has all was life changing, right? It was the
yeah.
reason that I was able to go to college and have a savings account because I had started basically being a paid public speaker before I even went to college. And so that transformed just my life in and of itself. So the financial stability that came from public speaking was incredible to me.
Yeah.
And more on a personal level, I've always loved performing, right? So though I am an
Mhm.
introvert, I always in elementary school, I loved being in the plays. In middle school, I would take the lines, I'd memorize them super quickly and go on stage. And I really did enjoy it because it felt like, again, in that moment, it's just me. I don't have to pretend, I don't have to act. I just have to sit and say the thoughts that I have spent my entire lifetime thinking, right? And it was for me the empowerment of after coming off that stage. It's like, whew, I did it. And that's a feeling that I like to chase all the time. It's like a roller coaster. It's scary. While you're there, you're like, why did I decide to do this? This is so dumb of me. I hate the feeling of it right now. I just want to get this over with. And then once you're off of it, you're like, wait, that was too short. Can I do it again? And I think
Wow.
that's what I keep chasing. I'm like, I love the feeling of after I'm done, wow, I did a really I feel really good, not only about myself, but about what the conversations I was able to inspire my audience to engage in.
That's courageous. And I think that's why you're an entrepreneur, because it's the definition of, let me do something really challenging where I think I cannot do it. And then when you do it, you're like, oh, that was actually really great. Uh, are you into roller coasters? Random question. Like, because the way that you describe it sounds like it.
I am. I am so into I always say this, but I live about 80% of my life in my comfort, in my introvertedness. And then it's that 20% where I'm like, I'm going to move to a new city. I'm just going to quit my job and do this entrepreneurship thing. I want to go on the roller coaster. So a lot of the transformation happens in that 20% for me. I engage in deep thought a lot of the times beforehand, but because I know that about myself, I try not to let myself be consumed by the thoughts,
Yeah, and when you say introvert, what does that mean to you? Because I think it's something that people think about a lot. Like, am I an extrovert? Am I an introvert? How does that affect my daily life? And I know that it has become a strong pillar to your brand. And for me personally, I always thought of myself as an extrovert. Like all the way through high school, I was the loud, obnoxious person. But there came a point in my journey, specifically in my spiritual journey, where I was like, actually, this is a lot of energy and I actually don't enjoy it that much. So I think I'm an ambivert, like somewhere in the middle, where I do need a lot of alone time to be able to function sometimes and to be able to be with family an extended period of time, or do speaking engagements, or for a conference I need just the time in my room by myself. I cannot share it. So I'm curious to know what that means to you and why it's so important.
Yeah, being an introvert is really, for me, it's all around different ideas of being a deep thinker, right? And introspective. Being in the state of introspection all of the time, which means I can't look at this pair of scissors and think it's just a pair of scissors. I wonder how people are using them. What are the things, who
Mhm.
invented it, that kind of stuff, right? Like constantly asking myself questions. And then a second pillar of it is the energy. It's not so much about what I want, but it's about what I actually need. So, how does this situation give me energy or drain my energy? When you
Mm.
think about introversion, it's the things that, like being social, if that gives you energy, if it gives you this boost, uh, that's not necessarily me, right? Like in the moment, it doesn't mean that I'm not a people person, right? I love having conversations with people. I can entertain a crowd, right? It just means that this particular thing, I'm going to need 3 to 5 business days to recover from. It's all around the energy, what gives us and what drains us, and not what we want, but more so what we need to be able to function. And when you define what you need to be able to function, to your point, I need so much alone time. And this is the case not only for public speaking and my career, but it's also even from family. Like I love my family and I spend a lot of time with them. I'm very family oriented, but I need my space. My partner, I love him, but I also need my space, right? And it's about recognizing that it's not you, it's me type of thing. And I think so often that's where people have these misconceptions about introversion. If I need space right now, that means I'm not a people person and I don't want to be talking, or that I can't do it, right? I'm sure people are always shocked that you don't seem introverted. You don't seem like you don't like talking to people. And I'm like, that's a thing. It's not that I don't like talking to people. It's that this activity will drain me. And therefore, I need to do something before and something afterwards to be able to come back and still do this with the energy level that you're witnessing today.
It's amazing to see how deeply you know yourself and to know what are the parameters that are gonna yield for a great outcome, and not only my performance as a public speaker but how I feel, because that's equally as important in our journey. um Public speaking is so important, not just from the business perspective as to like, let me grow my brand, let me grow any business that I'm creating, but also in the everyday life, even when we worked in corporate or in everyday interactions. Executive presence is what I it's how I viewed it when I was in corporate. I think it's a very structured, boxy term. I'm not sure I like it, but I think that the concept of it is like you're showing up confidently prepared, and your speech is commanding respect to a certain degree. So I want to dive into everyday life tips because I feel we could all use it. And when I hear you speak, I'm like, oh my gosh. I think my craft is something that I'm really working towards because it's hard. It's so many different aspects of speech that can create not only a powerful speech, but like I mentioned, like in everyday life, how you show up and how you speak to people. So I want to talk about tangible tips.
I love it. I mean, I have them. Is there anywhere in particular you want to start? I have somewhere to start now if you want.
See, let's start with the negative. What do you think is common for women, and my audience is majority first generation Latinas or Latinas. What do you think discredits us in meetings where we might be pitching ourselves for a promotion or to get a contract? What do you think are those things that don't help us?
I think one of the things that you, and obviously it always depends who's in the room with you, right? Which is why it's so important to have our people and representation in these rooms because
Mhm.
they understand you and can connect with you. The moments where our speech tends to matter is when there is a disconnect, maybe a cultural disconnect, a communication barrier. We neutralize it by appeasing to these concepts, right? It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just neutralizing the situation so that you can get something that you need out of it. For example, and we do this all the time. I do this all the time too. And I think did you just mention it? Maybe uptalk, right? Ending our sentences with question marks as if they are a question instead of affirming something.
Mhm.
This executive presence that you talk about isn't necessarily about being stern and rigid with how you say something, right? It's about actually just presenting in a way that is factual. Even if you have a little bit of self doubt around it, I'm going to repeat that. Even if you have a little bit of self doubt around it, it's you acting like it's a fact. Even if it's, I think that we should change the way that we do our onboarding. It's not a fact. I mean, it's a fact because you believe it to be the thing that needs to happen. But when you're in the boardroom, maybe you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a bunch of pushback for this. Oh, this is something we've never done before. So the self
Mhm.
doubt and the questioning of that shows up in the way that you say it. Instead of, I think that we need to change or we need to change our onboarding process. I think we need to change our onboarding process. And there's just a difference, right? It's not even, I'm sure you've heard this before. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So there's that. It's not
Hmm.
being firm or affirmative in what we're saying, but more so up talking. And there are articles that mention that women do this a lot more. And I think there's social reasons why we do that. It's not always that it's us internalizing lack of confidence. I don't believe that we lack confidence. I just think there's a little bit of doubt based on evidence that we've gotten in the environments that we're a part of, which is maybe I've gotten told that the idea is not good, or maybe I've gotten told that I don't know about this certain thing. So I've been told that I don't know about this certain thing, so I can't have an opinion on this, right? The other thing is filler words. The other thing is filler words. We often use them, and I always say they're not good or bad. They just dilute or amplify your message. And you get to make that decision in the room. There's so many reasons why we end up using filler words. And in particular for women, one of the reasons that filler words tend to be part of our vocabulary is because more often than not, we're used to being interrupted. We're used to being mansplained or whatever it is in these boardrooms, right? And so we use filler words as a way to let people know I'm not done talking, right? I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to say, but I'm not done talking. And I don't want you to interrupt me. I don't want you to follow up yet. And so we end up using filler words for those reasons. I think it's really important to note why we use those filler words. That's how you start to get rid of them and understand, am I using them because I don't know what I want to say? Am I using them because I'm afraid someone will interrupt me? And if I am afraid someone will interrupt me, how can I set the stage so that they don't? And let them know, I will let you know when I'm ready for questions, right? So anyway, those are two things that I think we as women often do in our speech that can not discredit but dilute our presence.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And when you gave the example about let's change the onboarding process, let I think we should change it is definitely more natural to me than saying let's change it. And I think it's a cultural thing. I'm curious to know what you think and dive a little bit deeper into that because when I say something like that, it's because I want to get consensus. I want to explore it further with somebody. I want to co-create it. I don't necessarily want to be the person to say let's change it, because there's so many factors that I may not know. I want to propose it, but I don't know if I actually want to do that.
And I think that's super important, right? Which is why tailoring to your audience is key. It's like you're not, if you know that this particular audience already is expecting you to make an affirmative,
Mm,
stance or pitch something, pitch a solution, then you can choose to say, we need to change the onboarding process.
mm,
If you know and understand that this audience, hey, we're in this room to just talk about things that we see are missing in our onboarding process,
mm,
or this is a room for collective brainstorming, you can lead with that. I think there is so much power in combining the essence of who we are, which is community oriented, with this kind of language. I don't think that saying I think dilutes the message. Rather, it lends itself to, let's do this in community. It just matters who the audience is, and tailoring to what their needs are, where their emotions are, meeting them where they are. I always say people want to be talked to like they're people. So if you go
mm,
into some kind of boardroom or meeting, you're like, we need to do this. We need to change our onboarding process. It's okay. What is my position here? Who's in the room?
mm.
Who are the decision makers here? Am I at the point in the process where we are going to move forward with changing the onboarding process, or are we in the process where we're just brainstorming, right? So public speaking and speaking in general requires you to think about not just what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, but the context in which you're saying it.
That's super helpful. I think that really puts things into perspective, and it makes it clear when you can, should, or feel comfortable doing either or. Let's talk about the opposite. About We talked about diluting our message because discredits is strong. Diluting, the opposite. What would make us be someone who stands out and be positioned more as a leader or somebody who's confident?
I would say the first thing is always meet people where they are.
Hmm.
It's kind of different when you are on stage and it's a solo act and you set the tone for the kind of energy that then your audience receives. But
Mm,
it's very different when you're in this space with a smaller group and you're going back and forth or communicating with people. I don't know if this is a me thing, but I always try to match the energy of the people in the room so that whatever I say either doesn't come off as too much or too little, right? And it's just right. Because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is convey my message and get us to do something about it. So if
mm,
it doesn't reach you at a point where you are able to receive it, then it doesn't matter what I say, how much I prepared. So I always try to meet people where they are, meaning if someone is a little bit more energy, I'll try to match my energy to theirs and bring it up a little bit. If someone is out, like this, I either will meet them there or bring it down a bit too, because I'm not the super high energy person all the time. So it's really assessing, getting almost like very in tune with people's emotions and saying, okay, does their high energy require high energy from me?
mm,
Sometimes it's not the case, right? When I am very good at being like, oh, I'm in the presence of an extrovert who likes commanding this attention, and that's okay for the purposes of what we're trying to do today. I don't need to go back and forth with them on this like high energy thing. I can allow them to speak, and then I'm listening so that by the time that I say something, I'm saying something that ties directly to something that they said, right? So energy managing and meeting people in
mm,
that space is really important. I think that's the first step because it dictates how you say something. The other thing is we always feel rushed. Right? It's like, oh my God, we want this to be 30 minutes, or you only have 5 minutes to speak all this time. It's why it's so important to try to say less during that time.
mm,
Don't try to fit so much into, if you have a 2-minute update at work, don't try to fit all of the updates. I always say public speaking, communicating is all about sparking curiosity in people. So if
mm.
I say I'd like to chat to the group about, I'm just going to take the onboarding process, about changing our onboarding process
Yeah.
for quarter two.
Hmm.
I don't need to, if that moment doesn't call for it, I don't necessarily need to share all of the details of how we're going to do that because they didn't ask for it. They didn't even say, oh, let's talk more about it. I'm just proposing this idea. And so, whatever in those 2 minutes that you think you want to say, say less of it. Say
Mm,
less, but say the most important pieces. And then our tone and pausing, right? It is so often the reason we end up using filler words is because we don't spend enough time understanding that our sentences they're grammatically correct. They have punctuation. They're either exclamations at the end, there's a period at the end of a sentence, and so, or commas. And so often we ramble on and on. We speak in a run-on sentence.
mm.
So when in doubt, always remember that your sentences have periods at the end of them, and use that as your indicator to pause for a little bit. Not for 30 seconds. I think when people think, "Oh, I need to pause more," it's anyways, no, it's literally it could be zero point 0.2 seconds. It just adds a little bit of stability to your voice, not only in your delivery of it, but also in your own feelings of confidence and stability as you're speaking.
I want to respond to every tip that you gave. The first one is the energy one. It takes so much emotional intelligence to be able to discern where somebody's at, where you can meet them at. And it's energy. It goes further, I think, than the five seasons, because you can kind of sense them, right? Like their body language, what they might be going through. So I think that's so amazing. I had never heard of it that way.
Yeah, because even with workshops, right? I don't know if a lot of listeners or your audience, if they lead workshops, facilitate learning experiences,
Mm,
we have this idea and this outline of what we're going to do. And it's a little different than keynoting. With keynoting, you're given a theme and you just go up there and do your thing, right? Lo que pasa in the minds of the audience, it is a plus if they capture what you say and are motivated, inspired. But if they didn't, then okay, well, you're not having this two-way communication.
mm,
But
mm,
wherever you have a two-way communication stream, you have to meet people where they are for it to
mhm,
actually be impactful. And
mhm,
that is something that I think, to your point, yeah, we don't often think about as much. And it's like, how do you teach that, right? You pick up on these cues. Energy levels is where I start. What is their energy like? And do I need to match it, or do I need to be the opposite of it?
yes. And the other ones that you're mentioning were pausing, limit the number of filler words, or be conscious of them at least.
Yeah,
Um,
basically saying what matters first and then adding detail if you need.
yeah, spark curiosity. That's the purpose, and less is more. That reminds me of a design principle of less is more. When you're working on branding or on doing a flyer or something specific, usually less is more, and I think that that's the same idea. We already talked about nerves and how difficult it can be to show up fully while you're like fighting internal battles. What are some things that you do to stay grounded or energized to be able to do keynotes? For example, they take a lot of energy. At least for me personally, I think giving a keynote is equivalent to like a week of work. I get so tired, and it's a lot to learn to manage the energy. So I'm curious to know if you have any rituals or things that help you. I've also looked up people like Tony Robbins, where they do specific things to be able to unlock energy, or even athletes, they have certain rituals that they do.
Yeah. By the way, because keynotes are so energy consuming and draining, it's why you should all be getting paid for those.
Yeah.
And paid, that's probably your highest rate as a speaker should be the keynotes, right? Unless you do different kinds of workshops and trainings. But anyway, I think opposite of Tony Robbins, right? I went to a Tony Robbins seminar once back, I think when I was like 2 years out of college, and he does the whole like thing and like
Yeah.
having energy and stuff. That is that to me is almost like affirmations, right? They're
Mm,
like a band-aid solution for what the root of my problem actually is.
mm,
Uh, I always say affirmations don't work unless we do, and they require us to reflect. So always turn your affirmations into a question and internalize what you actually are feeling and then work on that, right?
mm,
So very similar to right before I'm going on stage, rather than because it's in my nature to be more cool, calm, and collected during my keynotes, especially the nature of the things that I talk about. They're not necessarily. I think that I can inspire and motivate people through this calm,
Mm,
cool,
mhm,
comfortable, collected kind of demeanor. And that is my essence as a speaker. That's my style. Tony
mhm.
Robbins and I are very different, for example,
Yeah.
right? And so because of that, to me, the way that I gather my energy right before going on stage, and I'm sure maybe y'all have heard the power poses.
Mhm.
To me, sometimes I think for a little bit I thought that those worked, and I think it was a placebo effect because everybody was doing it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this, but really it didn't actually work for me. So what I do is adopt a more like nurturing kind of posture for myself. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hug myself. I'm gonna be very intentional with what I do, the things that I listen to. Sometimes when I'm really not feeling it and I don't want to think about what I'm gonna do, I mentioned I watch reality TV, right? Because that is loud. It's not me being loud. It's not me doing the energy thing or
Hmm.
being bold in my expression. It's me watching someone else do that and engage in that. And that gives me a little bit of energy because I'm like, oh, I'm separated from that energy. And that gives me what I need to go on stage. It's adopting these moments of nurture for self, whatever that ends up looking like. It's going to the space where I'm going to speak, being there alone, not talking to anybody at all, writing. I like to write what I'm going to talk about, what I really want to start with,
Mm,
or something completely different about what I'm feeling. And that to me is where I gather my energy so that when I go on stage, I can be more calm. Because I always say, you've already practiced, you've already rehearsed what you're going to say. It's not about I don't know what I'm going to say, it's how do I want to deliver it. And
mm,
most of the time I want to deliver it calmly because the nature of what I talk about is scary, right? People don't like public speaking. Speaking up in these rooms is scary. And so my energy, what I want to give to people, is a
mhm.
sense of empowerment, but through stability and through calmness, if that makes sense. So but a bit of a ramble, but
No, that's an art, really. It's an art, and you've been able, through all your experience, create something unique to you. And I think that's what we all work towards, right? We can get advice, coaching, methodologies, frameworks, learning through videos, but really we want to create something that's adapted to us as a human being because we're all unique and special. Thank you for sharing that. Very, very insightful. Before we end, I want to talk about your current initiatives. So, you do workshops for your online community, and of course, you do public speaking separately. Tell us a little bit about where you are now. I remember seeing about storytelling like our Abuelitas as one of your signature topics. So, maybe talk to us about that too.
yeah, so I do. I'm the founder of Latina Presente, which is the space for Latinas and introverts to practice their public speaking. Through that, there are virtual offerings, in person events. As part of my consulting, I do workshops and team trainings for corporate, nonprofit, all those kinds of things. But storytelling like Abuelitas really came from the idea of when I was in tech, there was a one of my managers said to me, "Hey Yvonne," after a call, "Hey Yvonne, you move your hands too much when you speak. You look clownish, and no one's going to take you seriously." And I sat with that piece of not so greatly delivered feedback, and it really hurt me because it came from someone that was higher up than me. I was in a space where I was one of only, and also the youngest, right? And so, being a Latina in tech, you just have all these different doubts already, and that solidified it for me. But at the same time, because it is in my nature to reflect and be introspective, I was like, I've been getting paid to speak for years now. How can I be terrible at speaking? How can it be possible that people won't take me
Hmm.
seriously? But at the same time, I'm also on stages and getting paid to speak, right? So I sat with that, and at this point I had mastered the skill of public speaking. I understood what my hand movements meant when I was on stage, and the combination of that with the tone of my speech, right? I understood these best practices, but was what was really missing was me bringing myself to the art and recognizing that the very things that my abuelita, the way that she expressed herself when I used to listen to her stories, were actually best practices in public speaking.
Hmm.
And so my foundation for my own practice and the way that I teach and facilitate learning around public speaking has to do with that very concept that we have been public speaking. It is in our cultura to be storytellers and powerful storytellers at that. And that the unique essence of my grandma, our moms, the most important people in our lives, the essence of the way that they speak, that is in us already. And those are techniques and tools that we can leverage encourage as public speakers. And
Mm.
so, storytelling like our abuelitas is really about public speaking education and practicing the art of public speaking rooted in what we already know to be true, which is that my grandma, my abuelita, used to captivate me with her stories. Even though I
Mhm.
knew some of, like, she would embellish some of them. And even though she would tell me the same story over and over and over again, every single time that she told it, I couldn't help but just sit there, right? One, out of respect, but then two, because I was actually interested in what she was saying, and it transported me to that moment in time. And so that is the essence of storytelling like abuelitas, and a lot of how I do my public speaking consulting. It's you don't have to be Latina to understand that your lived experiences and the people in your life carry these lessons and best practices around public speaking. And if we can use those instead to dictate how you practice the art and how you deliver, you might feel more confident in your essence that way than if we are to say, who's the best public speaker out there? Let me be more like Tony Robbins. Let me do what Tony Robbins does. Let me do what Oprah does. It's like, let me think about what I do naturally, organically in my day to day, and how I can use those things as my foundation, but also improve.
Wow, you transported me. I was like, yes, that is so good. Listening to our abuelitas, our moms, and it's such a strong part of who we are as Latinas, our family. So I love that you have taken all your experiences and used them for your business and the way that you create art, which is public speaking. So thank you so much for sharing all your insights. It was amazing. I got so much out of it, and I know that our audience members will also get so much out of it. What is one piece of advice you would share with first gen mujeres who are ready to either start public speaking or work more on their craft for everyday life, even when they're scared to take up space?
This is going to sound so annoying, but back
Yeah.
to what I said, it's you have to practice it. You have to put yourself in places where maybe you don't want to be initially, that are really really uncomfortable, but you have to say something out loud. You have to get in the habit of saying it out loud. I would even write down, maybe if you can't, you're in the boardroom and you're like, nope, I'm not going to say anything today. Write that moment down so that at the
Mm,
end of the month you can see all the moments that you missed out on saying something out loud, because that would have gotten you ahead in your speaking journey, right? So
mm,
find opportunities to speak. If they're not coming and being presented to you, go out there and look for them, because the only way that we can get comfortable, and the only way that we can actually see the connections between our cultura and our forms of storytelling and use them as the foundation of our speaking and feel confident in our speaking is if we engage in the art. The more you engage in the art, the more you will do it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I always say this. Yes, there are levels to your delivery of public speaking, and you will always be in a state of growing and continuing to be a student. But opportunity leads to more practice. More time spent practicing leads to you becoming an expert in your art and your field. You already have the expertise of what you would talk about, but what you're working on is the actual skill set of saying it out loud. So put yourself in the rooms, in the spaces that require you to say something out loud.
love that. Thank you so much, Yvonne. How can people work with you, support your work, and follow your journey?
I am across all social platforms at Chats with Yvonne. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that. Uh, I have a podcast, the Chats with Yvonne podcast. You can check that out. You can head to my website, chatswithyvonne.com, where I have the list of services, whether it be for speaking at an upcoming event, workshops that you want to attend, team trainings, anything like that. All of those things are always up on my website with different offerings every single month.
Thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time and expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.